Hi friends! Today I have a recipe that only uses one ingredient. It uses a certain kind of cheese. And the cheese gets its name from a place in Italy called Parma. Can you guess what kind of cheese we're going to be using? It's Parmesan cheese. Have you ever had it? You may have had it on a variety of things. You may have never tried it. You may have had this kind of cheese. But today we are going to look at Parmesan cheese a little bit more in its whole form before it's been grated. So Parmesan cheese is actually made in these big wheels. This guy is holding one. They're not all that big, but the cheese gets made into a wheel and then it's sliced into wedges, and that's how it's sold. And I have a wedge of Parmesan cheese today that we are going to use to make Parmesan crisps. So as promised, this is a one ingredient recipe using whole Parmesan cheese, but you need a baking sheet. Gotta have some parchment paper, or if you have one of those fancy silicone mats, now's a great time to use it. And you need a cheese grater, and we're gonna use a couple measures. We've got a 1/2 cup measure and a tablespoon measure. So I am going to grate my cheese very carefully until I have about a 1/2 cup. Now, if you wanted to make more crisps, you just grate more cheese. That looks like about a 1/2 cup, maybe just a little more. Okay, let's see how we did. All right, not bad. I've got a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Now it's time to get it on the pan. Now, here's where I need my tablespoon measure. So, to make scooping easier, I'm going to put my cheese back on the plate I grated it on. And I'm going to measure a heaping tablespoon. And that just means it kind of comes up over the edge. Put it on my parchment lined pan. And then I'm going to pat it down just a little. Gently, okay? And then I'm gonna keep going. We want to put them about 1 inch or 2 apart. So here we go, another tablespoon. I've got plenty of room, so I'm just gonna put that there. And then gently press it down. Gonna keep going until I run out of cheese. I have my little cheese piles ready to go into a 400-degree oven for 3 to 5 minutes. As soon as they get golden brown, you want to pull them out. I have removed my crisps from the oven, and I'm gonna let them cool for just a minute, and then I can put them on a plate. So here they are, ready to eat. I think they look kind of neat. And it's like a cracker made entirely out of cheese. So, great snack for a cheese lover. Our story today is Frances Woke Up Early by Josephine Nobisso published by Gingerbread House. Now, before I read, I want to tell you that Frances was a real person that lived in the town of Assisi in Italy. And the author explains in the beginning of this book that not much is known about when Francis was a little boy. So she took what we do know about him and imagined a story of what if Francis woke up early one morning. So it's about a real person, but it's a made-up story. And I think it's a pretty good one. Francis woke up early and covered his Nana. They had stayed up into the night, listening as all of Assisi discussed the she-wolf that prowled outside the town. Soon, Francis's Babbo had warned, she'll get hungry enough to steal into our barnyards and drag the animals away. Francis was hungry himself. He turned his empty breakfast mug right side up. There was always yesterday's bread, but if he had just one egg and a little bit of fresh goat's milk, all frothy and warm, he could make a breakfast of it and save the bottom, the best, for Nana. Francis knelt at his window, crumbling some of the bread into his palms. And when the birds saw that their friend was already up, calls of joy filled the hills as they flitted into town. The birds bustled into Francis's hands, their twiggy feet pinching, their horn-like beaks swiping left and right. In the barnyard at the bottom of the hill, the horses snorted in greeting, stamping in their stalls so that steam and dust billowed from the barn windows. A breeze slammed the stable door shut, and the goat kid bleated out to Francis before scampering under his mother, who huddled him against the wall. In the courtyard below, the rooster strutted around his hens, flexing his claws and creaking like a rusty hinge. An idea occurred to Francis. If he worked fast enough, he could secure the animals in the barnyard, collect that breakfast, and be back before anyone in the house was up. Francis scurried past his sleeping mama and past his Babbo, draped over a work table like more cloth. He hurried past the kitchen maid and the cat snoring at the hearth and slid back the bolt of the timber door. The hens flapped around the boy. They squawked as he urged them, dashing over stones thick as monks' books. Delicate butterflies fluttered about Francis's head, silent pastel confetti keeping company as child and chickens tripped and flitted downhill through flowers growing wild and grasses wet with dew. But when Francis stumbled at the bottom of the hill, he landed right in the shadow of the wolf. The hens, suddenly quiet, clustered close. Francis swallowed hard and stood up. He led the chickens into their coop and collected not one egg, but two. Outside, Francis spied the wolf's shadow, low and wide, crouching. The animal had waited for him. Francis sprinted to the goat pen where the nanny butted the backs of his knees and her kid nuzzled a moist "mah" into his palm. The boy opened their slammed door and the three of them scampered inside. Francis milked the nanny then, filling a crock all frothy and warm. The horses whinnied and stamped as the wolf's shadow moved over the boy's shoulders. But Francis reassured them as he broke one of the eggs into a stone bowl and poured out some of the milk. Frances carried the bowl to the base of the hill, away from the barnyard. Soon the wolf's shadow seeped around him from behind. Frances turned then, and the sight of that wolf, huge and beautiful, made his breath catch. Her intelligent eyes flitted, as though wanting to speak. She pulled back her magnificent head, muscular ears nimbly twitching, listening, because now the child was speaking to her. "I've prepared a little breakfast for you, Sister Wolf," Frances was saying. The animal sniffed at the air, daintily lifting one paw as the boy laid the bowl on the ground. "And if you decide to behave," he added. Frances began the climb toward home, the morning sun slowing him. Suddenly, the wolf sidled up beside the boy so that he found his elbow leaning on her bony back. And on that perch, Frances fairly floated uphill through poppies and daisies and lilies growing wild. When they reached Frances's kitchen door, the animal bounded onto a rise and looked the town over. Licking milk from her jowls, she turned. Wolf and child gently studied each other. Frances smiled, and, passing through the wolf's shadow, he let himself into the sleeping house. In his room, Frances crumbled some of yesterday's bread into his mug. He cracked open the remaining egg and poured out the nanny goat's milk. As he stirred it all with Nana's knitting needles, his heart sang a prayer of gratitude. Now that the day promised peace, they could enjoy breakfast, all frothy and warm. The end. And then there's some more information about St. Francis in the back. So, if you want to check this book out to read the story again and to learn a little bit more about how the author came up with her story about what if, when Francis was a little boy, he woke up early, then I suggest checking it out. All right, now, if you want to know more about Italy, I suggest Look What Came from Italy by Miles Harvey. And it tells all about all kinds of things, including food, and including Parmesan cheese right there. And so that's a really fun book. And then if you're looking for some Italian recipes or some recipes from other parts of the world, I suggest Around the World Cookbook by Abigail Johnson Dodge. All right, now that is all the time I have for today, so I will see you next time.